All right, there we go. Quick edit right there. I apologize for that little problem. I have no idea what happened. I don't know why my streaming just sort of stopped completely out of the blue. That usually never happens. I apologize for that, and I'm sorry for any of you guys who were tuning in. I have no idea what on earth just happened, but hopefully the stream is back up and running now. It seems like everything is back up and running. I don't know again, I have no idea what just happened. So I really apologize for that for all of you guys who were paying attention. That usually never happens. And again, I have no idea what on earth just happened. So I really apologize for that. But that's besides the point. So let's go ahead and continue on with what I was saying in this segment, which was about Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama. We're going to pick up exactly from where we left off. Again, I apologize for any of you guys who were viewing this and the stream sort of just randomly cut off. I have no idea what just happened. And this is really going to be, it's going to be a little bit of a problem editing. Hold on just one second. I'm just contacting the people top real quick. Started. All right. So, anyways, after getting so rudely interrupted by the stream, hopefully that does not happen again. But yeah, so Victor Wembanyama and Chet, they've been a rivalry for the longest time, and they've been playing against each other from the beginning, like when they were on the under 18 team, and then when they were on in the NBA, they were battling for Rookie of the Year. By far one of the most competitive Rookie of the Year battles recently, and one of the more exciting ones. Like a lot of people, they thought Victor was going to win up until Victor outplayed Wembanyama. The stream was screwing up, and so am I. Good lord. Victor Wembanyama, he ended up outplaying Chet, and that sort of like closed any arguments that Chet had for winning Rookie of the Year over him. But now at the start of this season, Chet Holmgren, he vastly outplayed Victor Wembanyama in this matchup. So, like I said before, 19 points, 7 for 10 from the field, 3 for 3 from 3, ended with 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks as well. Victor, he only ended with just 8 points in this matchup, 6 points actually, 1 of 5 from the field, and 0 for 3 from 3, ended with 8 rebounds, 2 assists, along with 3 blocks. So this is a pretty lackluster performance coming in from Victor, one that we really did not expect. Like, I expected Victor to play rather well against this matchup. In fact, the rivalry is so packed. Like, it is so, it's full of so much beef that there are some executives that are saying that Victor wouldn't even say Chet Holmgren's name, and vice versa. Like, that's how difficult, and not really how difficult, but that's how deep this rivalry goes. We have somebody in the chat, so I'm assuming that the streams are back up and running as perfectly normal. Anthony Manzano, he's saying, do you think Miami fans are panicking, saying that we need to do a hard reset and trade Jimmy or Bam after the start of this season? I think that a hard reset is actually very necessary for the Miami Heat. There was also rumors going around that Giannis Antetokounmpo could end up being traded to the Miami Heat. There are rumors going around. I said that before in the first segment, talking about the possibility of Giannis being traded, and some of his interests are, one of the teams that he's interested in is joining the Miami Heat. So you never know. You really never know. And with the situation going around with Jimmy, I would imagine that the Miami Heat would want to trade him as opposed to just letting him walk in free agency, and actually try to acquire some pieces in exchange for him, as opposed to doing what the Clippers did and letting Paul George walk in free agency over to the 76ers in exchange for absolutely nothing. And that's my thought process on it. But again, like, we do have to see how the rest of the season plays out, because anything can happen and anything can change a bunch of players' opinions. So, but aside from that, this matchup between Victor and Chet Holmgren. So right now, Chet ends up winning this matchup. And it makes total sense. The team overall, like the Thunder as a team overall, they also played a lot better than the team overall did for the Spurs. SGA, he did not have his signature 31-point game, but he did score 18 points, record 5 assists, 4 rebounds, along with 1 steal in this matchup. And he ended up shooting 7 for 20 from the field, 2 for 10 from 3. So not a very efficient night coming in from him. But I do notice that SGA is taking way more three-pointers than what he would normally take in the regular season. So I think he might be trying to work on something like that and trying to adapt his game into how it's supposed to be played now, or what is really expected of him to be played now. Lou Dort ended the game shooting 7 of 9 from the field, 20 points, 6 for 8 from 3. And let's see, Jalen Williams, he also played rather well, 5 for 13 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3 with 12 points. But the rest of the Spurs, like, they didn't really have, like, they didn't have a 20-point scorer, but Harrison Barnes played pretty solid in this matchup, 18 points, 7 for 12 from the field. Jeremy Sochan, 7 of 16 from the field, 17 points. And let's see, Malachi Branham, he ended the game 6 for 11 from the field, and with 15 points, 3 of 4 from 3. Really, the big issue with this game was the lack of production from Victor Wembanyama, and that's what ultimately costed them this win. And I wouldn't say it was a really close game. I mean, the score was 105 to 93. But if Victor Wembanyama did his production like how I'm used to seeing him produce, then I think that they would have ended up making this game a little bit closer than what it was. Another question from Manzano: what young players do you think are in a bad situation that are about to go into free agency Miami could trade for? Want to leave their current one. So, right. Let's see. Young players who are in a bad situation that Miami would want to trade for. Okay, so the first player that would come to my mind is Cade Cunningham, honestly. Like, the Detroit Pistons, they're a really awful team, but Cade Cunningham is a very solid player on the team. And the only real bright spot in this team and in the Pistons and the roster and the organization, I don't really think he would get traded because of the amount of money that he's being signed for. However, I do think that he wouldn't mind being out of the situation that he's in currently with the Detroit Pistons, constantly putting up 30 points and constantly ending up losing. They did not lose in the last matchup, spoiler alert for when I do my recap, but if there was any player that I would think would want to get out of a situation, I would think he would be one of those players. Another player that really that comes to mind is probably like Trae Young. I don't think that the Hawks, again, this is just like, players that are trying to get out of their situation and players that might want to get out of their situation just based off of how it's been going for them in the situation that they're in. I'm not entirely sure whether or not the Hawks are going to be keen on trading away Trae Young given having Zachary Rasacher and trying to rebuild around him, but I don't think he would be opposed to getting traded because Trae Young, again, is a player that wants to win. It doesn't matter where he's playing. He just wants to win and be part of an organization that wants to win as well. So I could totally, again, it's a long shot, but I could totally see that happening. And let's think, what other young players could be in bad situations? I thought Lauri Markkanen was going to end up being traded, but that ultimately did not happen with the huge contract that he ended up signing. So there goes that. That's like completely out the window now. Manzano says, with Cade Cunningham specifically, I understand he has the talent, but does he fit the system that Miami runs where we want players to be good on both sides of the ball? And look, I understand that that's your system, but do we really think that Tyler Hero is good on both sides of the ball? You're not going to have a whole lineup that's composed of two-way players. That's just not going to happen. Now, if you have a player that is really, really solid on one side of the ball, then that's okay because you can have several other players come off the bench and play defense like the way that you want. Even with the amount of point guards that he says, he continues in the chat, they have on their roster, how about trading for one of the point guards from Portland? That is another option that I could see happening. I mean, Fernie Simmons is a pretty good guard on the Portland Trailblazers. That could be an option, but again, you were talking about a guard that was solid on both sides of the floor. I don't really think a Fernie Simmons is solid on both sides of the floor, but he is a very solid offensive option. So I could see that happening. Again, I really feel like at the point guard spot, you do need a player that can facilitate and a player that can run the offense to the best of their ability. And that defense isn't necessarily a priority that you need to have when you're in the guard position if you can play offense rather consistently and when you have a team full of perimeter threats, so that way you can switch onto those perimeter threats. I mean, we've seen it with the Warriors when they run Steph Curry in the lineup. We were able to see how Klay Thompson would end up guarding the ball, and Steph Curry would guard somebody in the corner like that. So it's okay to generally have a guard that isn't really that confident or that dominant at the defensive end. He agrees with Tyler not being good on defense, but it's the limitations that he has physically. That is the reason why he is okay on defense. Sacramento would trade. He's asking, do you think Sacramento would trade De'Aaron Fox because they just drafted multiple guards in the last draft? I don't think so. I don't think so. I expect De'Aaron Fox is going to sign a huge extension after this off season. He recently declined one of his contracts, mainly because he's expecting to get more money if he's able to get accolades in this upcoming season. So that's a big reason why I don't think that De'Aaron Fox is going to end up leaving the Kings, and I don't think the Kings are going to end up leaving him either. But that's all that I have for this third segment. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into the fourth segment where I give my quick recap. We are running low on time because of the issue with the stream that I had a few minutes ago. Again, I apologize for that. I can't really control that. But I'll be right back after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we're going to be doing a quick recap of all of the games that went down yesterday in the NBA. And I got a lot of teams wrong. I did predictions the other day, right? Like how I usually do in my fifth segment, and I ended up getting a lot of teams wrong in this game. It was really bad. Like my predictions were not the best, and they definitely were not the most how should I say? They were not my most accurate picks, right? Like this was one of those days where I was just really bad. I just got unlucky with a lot of these picks because a lot of these games ended up being rather unexpected. So let's start with some of the games that I got right. So I ended up picking the Cavs to win against the Lakers, and they ended up winning. And they won 134-110. I alluded to this before. The Cavs, they're starting their season 5-0. They are one of the very few teams left in the NBA now that have remained flawless. The only other team left is on the Western Conference in OKC. And they're the first team to accumulate 5 wins in this season. So all of that drama that we heard in the offseason, irrelevant now. Absolutely irrelevant. These guys are playing very well as a team. They're playing very well with Jarrett Allen, very well with Mitchell, pretty well with Garland, and really good with Evan Mobley. Mobley only played 19 minutes in this matchup and was able to accumulate 25 points, And how well did he shoot from the field? I actually have no idea. Let's see. He shot 12 for 16 from the field, super efficient. Donovan Mitchell, he ended the game with 24 points, 10 for 20 from the field, 4 of 10 from 3. Jared Allen ended with 20 points, 9 for 12. Karis LeVert off the bench came with 16 points, 6 of 8 from the field. Darius Garland, he didn't really play all that well in terms of scoring the ball, but he did end the game with 10 assists, which is pretty solid. And again, 12 points, but 5 for 14 from the field. Not really ideal, but at the end of the day, a win is a win. Now, for the Lakers side, LeBron James, he ended up being the leading scorer in this matchup. 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Anthony Davis finally was able to stop scoring 30 points. 22 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. They both shot pretty efficiently. LeBron went 9 for 13. Meanwhile, Anthony Davis went 9 for 17. It was really just the rest of the team that didn't follow suit. And that's expected when you take a bunch of three-pointers. They shot 6 for 28 from 3 in this game, compared to the Cavs shooting 17 of 41 in this game. And shocker, Bronny scored his first basket in the NBA. Oh my God, it's a miracle. He went 1 for 2 from the field and ended with 2 points. So that was the big highlight of the game, really. And I mean, the rest of the players, they did not really play nearly as efficient as you would like. Max Christie 1 for 6, Austin Reeves 2 for 6, Roy Hachimura 4 for 6, and D'Angelo Russell 2 for 7. And when it's just LeBron and Anthony Davis doing most of the heavy lifting, it's not necessarily ideal. But again, this is only the second loss for the Lakers, and I expect them to bounce back. This was a particularly rough shooting night for them, and those kinds of shooting nights happen. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. Dalton Knecht also played really well in this matchup, 6 for 12. He did shoot 2 for 7 from 3, but he ended with 18 points. So can't really complain about his performances there. But I expected the Cavs to win, similar to how I expected the Knicks to end up beating the Miami Heat. They won 116-107 behind Karl-Anthony Towns' 44 points and 13 rebounds. Josh Hart ended with 10 points and 14 rebounds. Mikal Bridges, I keep saying Miles Bridges, good lord. He ended the game with 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists, along with 2 steals and 2 blocks. Jalen Brunson ended with 22 points, 9 assists, and OG ended with 11 points. Now, Jalen Brunson didn't shoot the ball all that efficiently, 6 for 18, but again, 22 points is 22 points. And when Karl-Anthony Towns is scoring 44 points, it's really difficult to beat this team. So, the Miami Heat, on the Heat side, Tyler Hero ended up scoring 34 points in this matchup, 7 assists as well, along with 5 rebounds. Jimmy Butler only scored 15 points in this matchup, but he did go 6 of 9 from the field and recorded 4 assists along with 4 rebounds and 2 steals. And let's see, Bam Adebayo, he did not really seem to be on one in this matchup, 3 for 7 from the field, 11 points. And Terry Rozier ended the game 5 for 14 with 16 points. Jamie Jacquez Jr. also did not really play well in this matchup. 8 points, 2 for 10 from the field. But I expected the Knicks to comfortably win this game. Now, this is sort of where basically all of my picks ended up being wrong. Now, I expected the Grizzlies to end up beating the Nets. Somehow the Nets ended up winning in this matchup, 119-106. Dennis Schroeder ended the game with 33 points. Cam Thomas ended with 19, and Cameron Johnson ended with 14. And really, the Grizzlies, they did not have, they did have Ja Morant, but Ja Morant did not really play as well as I thought he would. He went 5 for 16 from the field with 14 points, 1 of 6 from 3, and ended with 11 assists, which is pretty solid. Jaren Jackson Jr., he ended the game with 30 points and 4 rebounds. Zach Edey ended with 13 points and 2 rebounds in 18 minutes in this matchup. And again, I just expected the Grizzlies to end up coming out on top in this game, but they ultimately did not. Next is the one that actually shocked me the most. The 76ers ended up losing to the Detroit Pistons, the worst team in the entire NBA they ended up losing to. And why was that? Guess what? Joel Embiid did not play in this game. Neither did Paul George. I don't know what is going on with these two players. I don't know what's going on, particularly with Joel Embiid, because he was cleared for tonight. It was expected that he was going to make his debut, in this game. But when I looked at this game and when I saw it live and when I saw the box scores, he did not suit up and he did not play in this game. I don't know what is going on, but this is clearly hurting the 76ers, and they're off to an extremely poor start because of Joel Embiid's lack of wanting to play. I don't understand why he doesn't want to play. I don't understand what's going on, what's the injury situation going on with these two players, but it's really a bad start for them. Tyrese Maxey, he ended the game with 32 points, but really that's the only bright spot that the 76ers team has. And Jared McCain, the rookie for the that they just acquired in the draft, 3 for 9, ended with 12 points. And Caleb Martin, he ended the game 2 for 10. Really, this is just absolutely pitiful. And the fact that the 76ers don't have Joel Embiid or Paul George is a big reason why they ended up losing. Cade Cunningham, he ended with 22 points. Tobias Harris ended the game with 18 points and 14 rebounds. Jaden Ivey, ended the game with 23 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. And really just, I did not expect this team to win at all. The Warriors, they ended up beating the Pelicans again. It was rather stubborn for me to pick the Pelicans, especially after they lost to the Warriors previously. And you could argue that the rest of the team, the rest of the team played pretty solid. But Zion and Brandon Ingram did not score the ball as efficiently as they did in the previous matchup. In fact, Zion ended with 12 points, 12 rebounds. Brandon Ingram with 14 points, 6 assists, along with 5 rebounds. And Zion shot 5 for 20 from the field, which was incredibly inefficient. And the Warriors, on the other hand, they just kept being the Warriors. Buddy Hield, he ended up scoring 21 points. And Draymond Green ended up scoring 14. Again, Steph Curry was not playing in this matchup, and neither was Andrew Wiggins. And they still were able to come out on top. This is a problem for the Pelicans, and this spells only good news for the Warriors, because it's like now they don't even have their 2 best players, and they're still winning games. It does not make any sense how this is happening, but I digress. Next, the Celtics, they ended up losing to the Pacers in overtime, and the score was really, really close. The Pacers ended up winning 135 to 132. Pascal Siakam ended up scoring 29 points with 11 rebounds. Halliburton ended with 17 points and 12 assists. And he shot 7 of 19 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3. Not a very good, efficient game coming in from him, but those assist numbers rack up and they speak volume. And for the Celtics side, Jason Tatum ended the game with 37 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, along with 4 steals. Jaylen Brown ended with 25 points, 5 assists, and 6 rebounds, and Derek White ended with 23 points. This was a very, very close game. It came down to the very end. And, of course, when it goes down into overtime, it will always come down to the very end, right? And the game was really decided once in the final few seconds when Pascal Siakam made an extremely clutch 3-point shot with the help of Halliburton and took the lead 135 to 132. And then Jaylen Brown, he ended up missing the 3-point shot that would have tied the game and sent it into another overtime. And that's how the game concluded. So very, very close game. They ended up the Celtics, so far, they've dominated the rest of the season, and they only lost off of a buzzer beater. So that's not really bad. That's not a bad thing to lose by. I mean, again, they just made a clutch shot, and you just missed a shot to tie the game. It's not the end of the world for the Celtics, but this could be the spark that the Pacers needed to ultimately propel their season forward. Next, the Hawks, they lost to the Wizards. I did not expect them to lose again to the Wizards, especially considering how the Wizards are supposed to be a mediocre team. Alexander Czar did not play well in this matchup, go figure. Ended the game going 3 for 9 from the field with 11 points. Bilal, Koulibaly, messed up the last name, I guarantee you. 27 points, 11 for 14 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3. Jordan Poole, 6 for 17 from the field, 24 points. Jonas Valanciunas, 8 for 10, 22 points. And really, I mean, the Hawks, Trae Young played phenomenally in this matchup, 35 points, 15 assists. He did shoot 12 for 28 from the field, which is not ideal, 4 for 13 from 3. But the rest of the team didn't really help him much either. Zachary Rasacher did play pretty solid. He ended with 17 points, 7 for 15 from the field. And Jalen Johnson ended the game with 21 points on 21 shots, 1 for 5 from 3. And I didn't expect the Hawks to lose in this matchup, but they did. They lost to the Wizards twice. It really goes to show you just where the Hawks are in this regular season. The Hornets, they ended up winning against the Raptors, as I really expected. I mean, I firmly believed in LaMelo Ball, even though he wasn't the big reason why they ended up winning in this matchup. He did score 19 points and accumulated 6 assists, however. Trey Mann, he ended the game with 27 points, 10 for 19 from the field. Cody Martin ended the game 9 for 11 from the field with 25 points. And Nick Richards ended the game 10 for 14 along with 24 points. Now, from the Raptors, obviously Scottie Barnes was not playing all that well. Grady Dick was the best player on the team, 30 points, go figure. Ended the game 11 for 17 from the field. RJ Barrett off of the bench, surprisingly, ended up scoring. Actually, no, he did not come off the bench in this matchup. Excuse me. He ended up scoring 31 points, 10 for 18 from the field. Jacob Poeltl, he ended the game with 20 points, 10 for 14 from the field. So the Raptors, they played pretty solid, but, they just weren't enough for the Hornets. The Magic, they ended up losing to the Chicago Bulls 102-99. And Kobe White, 21 points. Zach LaVine ended with a double-double, 11 points and 10 rebounds. Vucevic ended with 18 points and 14 rebounds. And Josh Giddey ended with 20 points and 11 rebounds. So 2 players in the starting lineup ended with double-doubles. And this was not a very solid matchup from the team for the Orlando Magic. Paolo Banchero, he did have a very huge game, 31 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, as I suspected, but it just wasn't enough for the Chicago Bulls going on tonight. They only made 11 threes out of the 46 that they made, compared to the Bulls, who made 13 out of the 34 threes that they made, which was really the big deciding factor in this loss for them. Now, I already talked about the Thunder and the Spurs game. And finally, the Blazers, they ended up beating the Clippers 106-105. And Norman Powell, he ended the game with 30 points. Harden ended the game with 19 points and 10 assists. But aside from those two, that was really the only real offense that the team had against the Portland Trail Blazers in this matchup. And it really, it was unfortunate. I mean, DeAndre Ayton was the one that sealed the game with the score how it was, and Ivica Zubac, he missed both of the free throws that would have given them the lead, which probably would have sent the game into a little bit either into an overtime or into the Clippers winning the game, because they did not end up hitting a shot after that and no one else did. But that was really what sort of messed them up, those missed free throws, and it was rather unexpected. Actually, no, not really unexpected, because, again, Zubac isn't really that good of a free throw shooter. So that's all that I have on the recap for this segment, and I'm going to go into a short break and then go into a shorter segment where I talk about my predictions for the next games that are happening later tonight on Halloween. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned. And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, we are going to be looking at the games that are going to be happening later tonight, and I'm going to be doing my best to give my predictions on the teams that I feel like are going to end up coming out on top. Now, again, Like I said, I'm going to be doing my best because so far I have not been able to get any of these games. I have not been able to get a perfect scoring, and like not a perfect scoring, but a perfect prediction poll so far. I've not been able to do that. I'm going to keep doing that until I finally get it down. So we have only 4 games that are going to be happening later tonight. So the first one is Houston against the Dallas Mavericks. I think that the Mavericks are going to end up winning in this matchup. I just have a feeling. I believe in Luka Doncic. I believe in Kyrie Irving. I think that they'll be able to get the job done against this Houston Rockets team. They do play at home, so not to mention coming off of a very huge win against the Timberwolves in the last matchup, I expect them to be able to do what they need to do against Houston tonight. Now, the next matchup, the Spurs are going up against the Jazz. Now, these are some of the 2 worst teams in the NBA right now, but I think the Jazz are going to continue with their losing trend, so I'm going to go with the Spurs in this one. And I hope that I'm right, and I hope I'm right. I really want to get these predictions right for once in my life. I haven't been able to do that yet, and I really want to. The Suns, they're going up against the Clippers. I'm going to stick with my pick with the Suns. They were able to beat the Clippers in the last matchup, and it's been a while since they played. I do think that the Suns are going to be in much better shape than the Clippers, considering how they're going to be coming off of a back-to-back. And while the Clippers, they do play at home, and that arena is actually, like, it really affects people. It said it affected Kevin Durant, especially at the line. I think that the Suns are going to end up coming out on top in this matchup. And finally, the more difficult pick in this little prediction thing that I have going on is the Bucks going up against the Grizzlies. Now, this one is very difficult for me because I've picked the Grizzlies to win several times before and then they lose. I mean, they're going to come off of a back-to-back as well. And I thought they were going to beat the Nets, but they ultimately ended up losing. And now they're going up against the Bucks. However, it's not like the Bucks are really doing so hot either. I mean, you can make the argument that they're less than mediocre. And I'm very, very concerned exactly like who's going to end up winning. Like, I really want to pick the Bucks. But something deep down is telling me that they're not going to win this matchup. I don't know why. Like, it's just very, very tough for me to decide. And I'm gonna stick with the Bucks just because I have my faith in Giannis. If they disappoint me again, I am never ever picking the Bucks. If they disappoint me again, and you can quote me on that, if they disappoint me in this matchup again, I am never picking the Bucks to win in any matchup. And I guarantee you that when I do that, they're going to win in every single matchup. It's just how this works. I don't understand why, but I'm going to stick with the Bucks on this one. I know that the Grizzlies, they're playing at home. They are coming off of a back-to-back, but they lost to the Nets recently. And the Nets, they were able to beat the Bucks, which is why it's a little bit more difficult for me to pick exactly which team is going to end up coming out on top in this matchup. But I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to entrust in Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I'm going to stick with the Bucks. That's what I'm going to do. It's just how it's going to go. And we'll see how it goes with there. Now, the other difficult matchup that I think is more difficult to predict is the Spurs, because really, like, they're 2 really bad teams. So it could go either way. It's just like who's going to be the worst team. I think it's going to be the Jazz. I don't have any faith in the Jazz at all this season. And they don't have the pieces. They don't have, the only solid player that they have is Markkanen, and even then he's a bit iffy. And I would much rather put my trust in somebody like Victor Wembanyama as opposed to the roster of the Jazz. And the Suns and the Clippers, that's also going to be a tough matchup because that game that they last played, it ended up coming down to the wire. James Harden missed a free throw that would have sent the game into another overtime. And that was really the big reason why they ended up losing. But aside from that, I don't really see any more concluding evidence for the Suns blowing this game. I just don't think that's going to happen. So with that, I'm going to pick the Suns. And then with the Mavericks, I just have faith in Luka and Kyrie Irving. I think it's pretty justified to have faith in those two players. So those are my picks. And those are the teams that I expect to end up coming out on top. That's all that I have for you today on this segment, and that's all that I have for the show. Again, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that were going on during the show, but thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Please remember to use the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment if you want to get your comments recognized, or use Super Chat. Either or really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. That's all that I have for you today on this segment. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.